there, YouTube fam. I'm going to be quick. I just had some quick analogies to share that I should have shared yesterday. But at any rate, no time like the present. So the title of this YouTube is Save the Cookies, Bench the Player, right? And you're like, what the heck does that mean? So here's the scenario in a nutshell, right? So I've been thinking about some teachings and some things that I've heard lately as it relates to purity, because what we do is 100% Virgin Movement is purity, wholeness, and purpose. So some of the teachings are talking about how purity movements lead people to suppress or repress sexuality, and I want to let you know that that is not at all what I'm here for. I'm not here for that, okay? Because God created that. He designed us to have sexuality and femininity and to be sensual, and it all has its purpose and its timing, and that's the thing. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I'm not here for repressing anything, but it's more so to contain it, right? So if you could picture this, picture cookies in a cookie jar on a shelf, right? So you got these cookies, and I love cookies, by the way. Cookies symbolize sexuality, sex, desire, passion, if you will. So you got these cookies, and they're contained in a cookie jar, right? I could talk about the cookies. I can see the cookies. I can go over there, hold the cookie jar. I can smell the cookies. I can tell others about these cookies. Listen, when I get ready to take one of these cookies, they're going to be awesome. My cookies are awesome, okay? Just you wait. I can tell you everything about them, but for me to take the cookie jar top off and get in the cookies, I've just opened up another door, if you will. So now when I close the cookie jar, I have a decision to make. Whether or not I am going to wait, whether or not I'm going to eat all the cookies all at once, whether I'm going to share them with one person, whether I'm going to share them with a million. And how is that going to affect me emotionally when my cookies are gone, right? Because I told you I love cookies. How am I going to feel about sharing them with one person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people? Right? Those are a lot of considerations. It's a funny kind of analogy, if you will, but it helps you conceptualize sex and sexuality, I think. It's something that should be contained, because the moment that my appetite grows and it's out of control, which, hey, I've been there too physically in terms of eating, let's just be real, needing to put discipline and boundaries and things in place so that I can be the healthiest person that I am. I'm not repressing anything. I'm not saying, oh, those cookies don't exist. I'm not hiding them under my bed and I know that they're under there and they're calling my name. No, I'm putting them on a shelf because I said they have a place and a time. And just like children, I'm not going to let children eat cookies for breakfast. I'm not going to let them eat cookies for lunch. I'm not going to let them eat cookies for dinner. There is a specific time for a snack, and that is the designated time to eat the cookie. So all of that to be said, it just goes home it serves to reinforce the idea of sex and sexuality being put on the shelf and reserved for such a time as the Lord has ordained for us to utilize that tool, if you will. Same thing with the analogy of sports, right? I am not a sports buff, but by any means, but I played sports throughout my life. I played volleyball. I actually was on a basketball team. And I can remember being benched, right? I can remember sitting on the bench, and I remember asking questions at some point in my life, asking maybe from my coach or just other coaches, like, why not play certain players, right? And the coach has to have it in his mind who he's going to play at what point and what time and why, right? So I can remember thinking or being told, oh, well, these are my first string, second string, third string. The strongest players are coming out the gate. They're my starters. But as time winds down, as they get fatigued perhaps, and depending on what's happening in the game, I'm going to put in my second and my third string, right? So they have a plan and a strategy. It's the same thing with your purity walk. It's the same thing with your life as it relates to sex and sexuality. So think about that as a player, if you will. Whatever you call it, your sexiness, your sex, your sexuality, passion, whatever you call that, it has a purpose and a place because God created us to be that way. Especially if you're designed to be married or have a desire to be married. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, if you will. You don't want to get rid of your cookies. You don't want to fire the players. You don't want to get rid of the players. You want to house them or shelf them on the shelf or on the bench, if you will, especially related to the players. Because you might have that one player. Coaches know in a game of life, hey, I got this one player. He might get out of control. He might get a little bit disrespectful. Okay, we're talking about like desire and sexuality. He might get disrespectful from time to time. I know he loses his cool. He does not as disciplined as he needs to be to really be able to play in this game. So I'm going to bench him. Okay. I'm not getting rid of him. I'm not telling him to kick rocks and walk off the team. No, because I need him. I need him just like I need everything else. But what's at the forefront of this game? What are the high stakes of this game? Who's in the game? Who's starting this game at the moment, right? Like, is it passion or is it purpose? Is it wholeness? Is it destiny? Is it discipline? Are they destiny steps to get you to walk in purpose? Who is in the game? And that's what you have to consider as someone who's desiring to walk into the fullness of God's purity, God's identity for you as it relates to purity. You have to decide who are going to be the influential players, the key players in the game called life, and where to prospectively keep those other players, such as, like I said, pride, not pride, because we don't want, really pride doesn't need to be on our team, but that passion, and when I say pride, I'm going to go back to pride. When I say pride, you have a right to be happy for the accomplishment that you had. To look back and say, Lord, I look and I see where I came from, but by the grace of God, I've gotten this far. So I'm excited and I celebrate because I know that you're celebrating with me. That is a level of, I guess, self-inventory and appreciation. But when I think about pride, people call it pride, but when I think about pride for my purposes, it's being stubborn and stuck in our ways and rebelling and not willing to submit to the plans of God. So that's not what I'm talking about. And I didn't even mean to say pride, but it did come up. So anyway, getting back to what I'm saying. So we need to be able in the game of life, just be able to identify who are the key players, right? And when should they be playing in the game? And when should they be benched? When should your passion and desire and sexuality and sensuality be in the game? And when should it be benched? Okay, that's a good thing to consider on this purity journey. God bless you, and be encouraged.